Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I met Vivian at a networking launch event downtown, one of those open bar gatherings where everyone's pretending they've already made it. She wasn't just beautiful, she had presence. Elegant dress, sharp eyes, spoke in polished soundbites. She introduced herself as a lifestyle consultant, but really, she helped boutique brands improve their Instagram pages and ran a tiny YouTube channel with maybe 3,000 followers. At the time, I was 31, working as a finance operations lead at a logistics company. Not flashy, but stable. Vivian loved that. "You're the kind of man who's going places," she told me the night we met. "You just don't know it yet." We started dating immediately. Fast forward 15 months, and we were married in a vineyard wedding. Her parents chipped in, but I covered most of it. Vivian always talked about image, how people needed to see us as successful even before we were. "Perception creates reality," she'd say, like a mantra. The first year felt promising. Vivian was charming in public, supportive when she wanted to be, but always turning the dial. She'd call my job a stepping stone and tell me I was too smart to stay middle management. When I got a 6% raise, she smiled and said, "Let's aim for 15% next time." She quit her consulting clients 6 months into our marriage to focus on bigger things. She started building a personal brand, coaching women, posting curated lifestyle content, and making vision boards. I covered the bills, her car, her health insurance, everything. At first, I told myself this was what support looked like. We were building something. But I started noticing how she didn't really build anything. She curated, staged, posed. And if I questioned a $900 expense for a photo shoot or props for her brand, I'd get the look. "Grant, do you want to be with someone ordinary?" That line stuck with me. I didn't realize until later I already was. I just didn't know it yet. The image was everything to Vivian. She turned our townhouse into a showroom. Minimalist furniture, custom light fixtures, overpriced decor. She spent hours perfecting angles for product shots in our kitchen. Nothing was real. Even the meals she posted were copied from Pinterest. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks. My promotion came with more responsibility, but not much more money. When I brought that up one night, she didn't even look up from her laptop. "You've got to think bigger, Grant. Stop settling for enough. That's such a middle-class mindset." That summer, she pitched a home makeover series to her audience. New floors, new cabinets, a completely unnecessary home office transformation, all charged to our joint card. "It's for content," she said. "Think of it as marketing." I did the math. Over $18,000 in 2 months. When I asked her to slow down, she sighed and crossed her arms. "I'm trying to build something here, Grant. Why are you always limiting everything? You never had a vision before me." It wasn't just spending. Her tone was different in public, warmer, more engaged. But around me, she was short, irritated. Once, during a rooftop party we hosted for some local creators, I walked past her while she was talking to her friend Camille. "I mean, he's reliable," Vivian said, laughing lightly. "Kind of like a financial airbag. Not exciting, but I know I'll land softly if I crash." She didn't know I heard. That was the first time I felt something snap, like a thread inside me pulled too tight. I poured myself a drink and smiled at our guests. But inside, I was watching everything differently now, like I'd just walked into a movie halfway through and realized I wasn't the main character. I was just the prop. 3 weeks after that rooftop party, Vivian said she was heading to San Diego for a Women in Leadership retreat. 2 nights, luxury resort, all covered by the brand. I asked which brand. She smiled. "You wouldn't know them. It's niche." She packed her new luggage, wore heels too high for networking, and left. That night, I opened her old laptop, the one she said was too slow for editing. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Email confirmations, credit card statements, a booking under her name at the Marriott Marquis, not the retreat resort she mentioned, a speaker list from a different event entirely, a tech panel featuring Andrew Talbot, her ex. She told me once that Andrew had moved on and that what they had was immature and intense. Still, she kept following him on Instagram. I sat back and stared at the screen. I didn't say anything when she got home. I played normal. She raved about the breakthrough sessions and how her vision was finally coming together. That's when I called John. He was my closest friend from college. Used to be a financial analyst, now runs his own auditing firm. We hadn't spoken much since the wedding. When I told him what was happening, he was quiet for a moment, then said, "Want me to dig?" I said yes. Over the next 2 weeks, John helped me pull together statements, check IP logins, and verify transfers. We found a separate account. Over $12,000 deposited from our joint savings in the last 10 months. Some of it was labeled brand expenses. One transfer was titled Therapy Retreat. She hadn't gone to therapy. I started keeping records. Screen recordings, saved stories, bank screenshots, and Google Calendar exports. Not to confront her. Not yet. I wanted clarity. I wanted the truth. And if Vivian had a plan, I'd need a better one. Vivian loved being the center of attention, but she preferred an audience that didn't know her well. That's why she insisted we host a dinner when my firm landed a logistics merger, a big deal for us, and a chance to connect with executive leadership. We rented out a private room at a downtown restaurant. She showed up in a dress I'd never seen, probably new, probably expensive. "You're the prize tonight, babe," she whispered, adjusting my tie before we walked in. "So, let's look like it." She toasted the room, made little jokes about how she had to share me with spreadsheets and boardrooms. People laughed. I smiled. It was part of the game. Then she turned to my VP, Leonard. Older guy, dry sense of humor. She leaned in a little too close, rested her hand on his arm. "I keep telling Grant," she said, voice playful but sharp. "Stop being so dependable and start being a little dangerous. Nobody makes history by being safe." Leonard's smile tightened. In the car, I didn't say anything until we got home. I poured a drink. She slipped off her heels and tossed her purse onto the counter. "You embarrassed me tonight," I said calmly. She turned around, one eyebrow raised. "How?" "You flirted with my boss." "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "That's just charm. That's how people connect. You're so sensitive." I didn't argue. I just hit record on my phone and slid it quietly onto the kitchen island. "Grant, if you're going to start acting like I owe you something for being a good little paycheck, maybe we should rethink this setup. You keep the lights on. Congrats. That doesn't make you interesting." She poured herself a glass of wine, still talking. "Sometimes I feel like this whole thing, the house, the schedule, the joint accounts, it's like a polite little prison with nice furniture. We just dress it up so people think we're happy." Then she walked upstairs. The recording sat on my phone. Clear audio. I didn't listen to it again. I didn't need to. I had everything I needed now. After that night, I stopped arguing. I stopped questioning. With John's help, I built a timeline. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every time Vivian had rerouted funds from our joint account into hers. Over $19,000 just in the last year. We found a business account she never told me about, under her brand's name but with my money fueling it. Then came the messages. John managed to pull cached versions of deleted texts from an old cloud backup. Vivian had been messaging Andrew, her ex, for months. Flirty, casual, escalating. One message stuck out. "You always knew how to make me feel alive. Grant's safe, but you were fire." Another. "Once this next raise hits, I'll have options. A girl needs a cushion before making big moves." She had a whole playbook. I met with an attorney, Elaine Shaw, sharp as a blade and twice as quiet. She'd handled a few high-profile divorce cases and had a reputation for surgical execution. Elaine didn't blink once during the consultation. After I laid everything out, she nodded and said, "You're not angry. That's good. Anger gets messy. You want a clean cut." She instructed me on the next steps. No sudden movements. Keep the mask on. Let her believe she's still in control. The opportunity came when Vivian was invited to a luxury influencer retreat. She played it off like it was exclusive. "They only invited 15 of us," she said, twirling her phone in her hand. "It's all expenses paid. I just need a little cash for wardrobe and incidentals. Maybe $1,200? I transferred the money that same night. "Thanks, babe," she said, pecking me on the cheek. "You're starting to get it. Investing in me means we both win." "Exactly," I said, and meant it, just not the way she thought. She left Friday morning. By Friday night, I had already changed the locks. She texted me Sunday night. "Why is there a paper taped to the door and my key isn't working?" I replied with 3 words, "Check your email." 2 minutes later, "What the hell is this? Are you insane?" Then calls, then voicemails. But I didn't pick up. Elaine was clear. No direct contact. Everything goes through counsel now. I'd taken a few days off work, coordinated with John and two movers. Every item I'd purchased was cataloged, boxed, and moved to a secure storage unit. Bank accounts were secured, passwords changed, security cameras installed legally with signs posted. The email she opened included a formal notice of divorce proceedings, a temporary restraining order on the property, and a freeze on joint assets based on financial misconduct and deceptive withdrawals. Vivian's Instagram went quiet by Monday morning, but I got the messages through mutual friends. She's saying you locked her out during a business trip. She told Ashley you're having a breakdown. She's spinning it like you've been controlling in cold for years. That afternoon, Elaine called to update me. Vivian had retained an attorney, Matthew Crane, known for taking an aggressive stance and flooding the courtroom with noise, not substance. Elaine wasn't concerned. She said he was the type to go scorched earth when he smelled weakness, especially if he thought public sympathy could tilt things his way. But there was nothing he could weaponize that we hadn't already neutralized. Let them try. We were ready. Vivian still hadn't seen me face to face, and she wouldn't, not until the hearing. But in every message she sent, every call I didn't answer, I could feel it. She knew she'd lost control, and she had no idea what was coming next. The hearing was set for 10 a.m. sharp. Vivian walked in looking like someone else entirely. Loose curls tied back, soft cardigan, pale skirt. Her attorney led the way, confident. I sat next to Elaine, calm. My only emotion was focus. Matthew opened by painting me as manipulative, emotionally distant, and controlling. Said I'd abandoned my wife while she was growing her business and accused me of financial abuse. Vivian teared up on cue. Elaine didn't flinch. When it was our turn, Elaine laid everything out with surgical precision. She started with the financial records, nearly $19,300 quietly funneled from our joint account into Vivian's so-called business fund, with no transparency and no justification. Then came the travel documents. Vivian had claimed her Palm Springs trip was an influencer retreat. The receipts told a different story, showing luxury charges, spa treatments, and hotel stays that didn't align with the supposed brand itinerary. The pattern matched a previous trip to San Diego, where she had claimed to attend a women's leadership event but had instead met up with her ex, Andrew. Elaine then presented screenshots of their private messages, flirty, suggestive, and laced with references to starting over and Vivian's exit plan once my next promotion came through. Finally, Elaine played audio clips, clear, time-stamped recordings of Vivian speaking candidly in our kitchen. In one, she mocked our marriage as a polite little prison with good lighting. Her words weren't just cold, they were calculating, and hearing them in court, stripped of charm and context, made the truth impossible to deny. Elaine presented the evidence without commentary, just facts. The judge, a woman in her 50s with a firm presence and clipped tone, paused after reviewing the final piece of evidence. She fixed her attention on Vivian with an expression that left no room for misinterpretation. Her ruling was swift and decisive. She stated that what Vivian had described wasn't a marriage, but a calculated financial strategy. There would be no alimony. Vivian would be required to submit a full accounting of all her personal financial accounts by the end of the week. I was granted exclusive use of the house until further proceedings. Each party would cover their own legal fees. Matthew tried to raise an objection, but the judge shut it down immediately. Whatever narrative Vivian had hoped to sell had crumbled under the weight of the evidence. Outside, as I was speaking to Elaine, Vivian approached, alone. "Grant, wait." Elaine stepped in. "He has no obligation to speak with you outside counsel." Vivian stepped around her. Her voice dropped. "You really want to do this? Humiliate me? All because I was trying to build something while you played accountant?" I looked her in the eye. "You built a lie, Vivian, and I documented the entire foundation." She scoffed, turned, and walked away. 9 months later, everything was different. The divorce was finalized. The house was mine. I sold it at a decent profit and bought a smaller place near the coast. Nothing extravagant, just quiet, clean. Vivian walked away with her car, her personal items, and a dying brand. No alimony, no second chance. Her Instagram dried up fast. Once the curated lifestyle was exposed for what it was, sponsors disappeared. So did the followers. John told me she'd reached out to a few of our old connections and tried to reframe the narrative. No one bit. Then came the text. Hey Grant, I've been thinking a lot about us. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I made mistakes, but I also know we had something real. Can we talk? I didn't reply. A week later. Things are complicated. If you ever feel like catching up, I could really use a friend. Then came the voicemail. Her voice cracked. She said her savings were gone, that she missed who I used to be. Maybe we could revisit what we had. I forwarded it to Elaine per protocol, then deleted it. That was the last time she tried directly. Last I heard, through John, she was working at a high-end consignment shop, renting a guest room from a family friend. As for me, I was promoted 6 months after the court date. I travel less now. I see my parents every other weekend. I picked up cycling again, got back in shape, started dating someone new, Natalie, a physical therapist who thinks ambition doesn't mean stepping on the person next to you. We don't perform. We just live. I used to think freedom meant success. Now I know. Freedom is silence. It's sleeping without wondering what someone's hiding. It's saying no and not being punished for it. It's being with someone who doesn't treat love like leverage. Vivian once said I was dependable, a safety net. She was right. She just never thought I'd cut the ropes and walk away. Thank you for watching.